Hi, it's Coach Mike, Diamond Dreams Baseball Academy, Collegeville, PA. It's time for an audit. Tonight, we're going to go over the effects of the 6 or 8 weeks we've been off, seems like an eternity, and see what the skill development issues have been and what we've lost. An audit is a strange word to use in baseball. Of course, it's usually a financial term, and it's checking your wealth. And the most common audit that everybody knows about, of course, is the IRS audit, and that's the bad one. But we're just auditing your skills and seeing where we're at in this pandemic. And we hope everybody out there's okay, but we're looking for ways to help you to maintain the training and actually look at what you've lost over time. So these are unprecedented times. Players in their development have never been where we are today. Each player should be looking at their individual situation and their comfort level on where they are in their development. And everybody's a snowflake, so everybody's going to be at a different place, and that's okay. It all depends on what you want to go, where you want to be, what level you want to be at when we come out of this. Periodization. We train in a microcycle, or 1 year time period of training. This 1 year is broken down into periods. On March 13th, when we shut down, and now we are in our competitive period. We should be playing games right now. We should be in the heart of the high school season. We should be getting closer to the end there, and everything should be going on. Rec ball and all the little leagues should be happening. Softball, high school should be going full tilt. So we should be playing games right now. And of course, we're in dead stop. We just had come out of our preparatory phase or off-season training. Right now, we should be halfway through our summer, spring, Northeast competitive season. I feel sorry for my students and everyone else who worked so hard in the off-season to prepare for the 2020 season. Many of these players were positioned to have breakout seasons. Of course, those seasons didn't happen. We had guys that came in 3 times a week and really worked on pitching. We had guys that went through velo. We had girls that were working on blast motion and really picked up their velocity. These students were really ready to go out and make something happen in their high school careers. And of course, it didn't happen. And I feel terrible for anybody that we trained or trained anywhere else that went through that. So the question is, during the past 6 weeks of isolation, what has happened to your skills? Well, in skill acquisition, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. Now, my son Michael had got some video, or it was working with a basketball gentleman doing really good stuff on the internet. Everybody's giving away stuff these days, and he said you're either getting better or you're getting worse or you're staying where you're at. And I would disagree with that. I think there are only 2 choices. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no such thing as staying where you are. So I don't think there's any question that most of the players out there are getting worse due to the lack of competitive games, team practice, and individual instruction. And I'll illustrate that as we go along. Okay, so what have we lost in the last 6 weeks? Well, we've probably lost a lot more than you're thinking about. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this audit. I wanted you to look at the entire picture and see what we were actually losing. So high school players, both in softball and baseball, have lost approximately 20 games. I checked Springford's schedule and ran over it, and they would be 19, 20 games in right about now. Softball, baseball, probably pretty much the same amount of games. That would translate into approximately 60 at-bats versus competitive pitching. As a fielder, your first baseman would have approximately 300 chances, and all other positions around 125. So you'd have 125 fielding opportunities. And of course, that's an estimation, but you'd be around there somewhere. As a pitcher in baseball, 10 games or about 750 competitive pitches. In softball, you could have doubled this total as a pitcher. Of course, in softball, they use less pitchers in the rotation. You may have 1 or 2. High school is probably using 3, maybe 4. So that's a lot of loss that you're going through right now that you've got to get back. Youth players Travel players who also play recreational games ironically match up with high school players pretty well. I'm always amazed at this, but when we go through the numbers, everything kind of corresponds back. So if they had 10 recreational games plus 3 travel tournaments, they would also be at 20 games. So they'd be right with the high school baseball and softball players. 60 competitive at-bats on average. Again, 300 plays at first base and 125 chances in the field. Pitchers would have thrown 20 innings, a lot less, and they would only have about 300 pitches. Of course, the youth players are on pitch counts that are much lower, and they use a heck of a lot more pitchers. Everybody on a travel team has to be a pitcher, and that's a good thing. So what have you lost from your practices and your private instruction? And this is monumental because, you know, we practice every day and then we play twice a week. In high school, maybe once a week, twice a week. And if it rains out, you may go down to 3 or up to 3. But it's usually a pretty easy schedule to maneuver through. But if you're in high school and you're a baseball, softball player, you've missed thousands of repetitions. And that's the value of a high school season, getting all those reps and getting all that work in daily and having the facilities to do that. So my high school infield would get 125 ground balls a day. And that would be 3,750 ground balls over 6 weeks. Batting practice, 3 rounds of 12. And that's not hard to do in any of your high school programs. So you get 3 rounds of 12 and you're going to have 1,080 in 6 weeks. Positional players and pitchers' daily throwing plan, including long toss, would total about 70 throws a day. That's over 2,000 in 6 weeks. And that doesn't cover infield, outfield practice or bullpens. That's just your warm-up and your long toss and your daily throwing program. Pitchers on driveline protocols, and most schools around here are either fully into driveline or doing part of driveline. But if they're in a driveline program, they would lose 60 repetitions a day. There's 6 basic drills. Each drill is normally done 10 times. You'd have 60 reps a day. And then when you get through that in 6 weeks, you've lost 1,800 drills. Plus, most programs would at least have 1 bullpen a week. So you've lost 6 bullpens. And you've lost 6 weeks of professional instructions lost. Now, at high school, you all know, high school, travel ball, wherever you're in a team environment, it's not about you particularly. It's very little about you. It's a lot about the team. But when you lose your professional instruction, your private instruction, that's the time that's dedicated to you and your problems. So 6 weeks of professional instruction loss is quite a lot too. Youth players practice much less than the high school and the softball. Normally, it would be 1 recreational team practice and 3 travel team practices. Now, you know, it's all over the board. Some travel teams, I'm sure, practice more, and some travel teams practice less. So we went right in the middle. Recreational teams practice once a week if they can. Sometimes that's knocked out if they need a game. Oh, so we went right for the middle. We didn't go high. We didn't go low. And now, for the rec players, you're only going to get 50 ground balls a day for the infield, a lot less. Okay, but it's still 150 a week or 900 total over the 6 weeks. 2 rounds of 12 in the batting cages. You might get more than that, but that's being conservative. Okay, you're going to get 24 per day, 72 a week, or 432 in 6 weeks. Throwing program, again, comes back to high school and softball programs. And the travel programs, about the same, 70 throws a day. Now, the distances are less, of course, for the smaller guys, but that's still 210 a week for a total of 1,260 over 6 weeks. It's a lot of work that we're missing, and that's a lot of arm development that we're missing. Pitchers on the driveline protocol, and I know there's a lot of teams out there on driveline, so we're going to stay with that, would be doing the same amount of work as their high school counterparts, different weighted balls, going through those 60 drills a day or 180 a week for 1,080 over 6 weeks, plus the same 6 bullpens that most people have, at least 1 bullpen between weeks, and that's setting up for that travel tournament on the weekend. So you've also lost 6 weeks of professional lessons lost. There are lessons that are built for you, designed for you, and are working especially for you. And that's the only place you're going to get that. You don't get that in a team setting. So are you getting better or are you getting worse? There are two choices. And there's no doubt that this loss of 6 weeks of competitive phase is causing you to lose valuable skill. Just in baseball IQ, now baseball IQ is how you know to play the game. It's that internal clock in your head. It's knowing where to go with the ball before the ball is hit to you. And long-term baseball data is when I'm seeing a slider, I see a slider, my mind recognizes it, my data bank builds on how to hit it. Curveballs, changeups, risers in softball, a drop curve. All these things you need to see to learn to hit. So you're missing hundreds of hours of baseball information, which is critical to your development. Okay, you're not seeing competitive pitching. To hit competitive pitching, you must face competitive pitching. You go out in the backyard and dad soft tosses to you and puts them in the zone and you crank them away. And that's good. They're good reps, but they're not competitive reps. You have to compete against a good pitcher. The better pitcher you compete against, the more it's going to help you out in the future. It's going to be tough, but that's what we've got to learn to hit. As a pitcher, you're not facing competitive batters under the scrutiny of an umpire that you may or may not agree with all the time. And how do you handle that mentally? Okay, you're not forced to compete to get batters out. You're out there in a bullpen and you make a mistake, you don't see that mistake. But you're out there in a game and you make a mistake, you're going to see that mistake 9 out of 10 times. Okay, we get away with some. As a fielder, you're not under the pressure to cleanly field the ball and make the routine play routinely on a daily basis. We don't care if you make that ESPN play. We love it when you do, and it's very exciting. But as a fielder, you have to have a fielding percentage in the upper 900s. You've got to make the routine play routinely to stay on the team and to go out there, depending on where you are. But fielding is not taken for granted. Fielding is a must. Okay, one of my favorite country songs is the Osborne Brothers, and It Ain't My Fault. And the Osborne Brothers have a great song. They have a country guy that gets in all sorts of trouble. And every time he gets into trouble, he sings, "It isn't my fault," or "It ain't my fault." So in this situation, it's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done to prevent this great loss of time on task. Normally, you'd have been there. It's not your fault. So do not blame yourself or feel sorry for something that you cannot control. Big issue in mental emotional management. You have to realize this ain't your fault. Now, what have you been doing over the 6 weeks on the plus side? We just went over 6 weeks of deficit in your audit. We took everything that was away. We took all the money away from you, and you've lost lots of money in the process. But you could have been putting money back in the bank, and we don't know what you've done. And I'm sure you're all snowflakes out there, and it goes from guys sitting on the couch and eating potato chips, and guys and girls out there working their butt off, and somewhere in between. So we don't know where the plus side is. Hopefully, you've been doing hours of work to compensate for your loss and to keep those losses at a minimum. I'm going to take you through a process on what you could choose to do going forward. These are all critical decisions you have to make. And remember this, every decision you make, small, medium, or large, will have a decision on where you're going to go, what you're going to do. There's no decision out there that doesn't carry some weight. Remember, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. Buckets. Okay, we're going to take your skills and put them in buckets. Okay, and we want your buckets to be even. So you've got, if you're looking at this financially again, and we've got some buckets over here that have cash in it. We have other buckets that have investments, and we have other buckets that have other real estate, whatever the heck it is. We look at everything and we go, you know what? you're pretty well set up. Or you're not. You got everything in one bucket. And if that bucket goes, you're in big trouble. So we want to separate those skills out, see what you got, see which bucket may need attention. Depending on your situation, some buckets need more attention than others. This is all part of the audit to let you know what is possible and make sure you're not overlooking any weakness. Your first bucket is skill acquisition. This is the bucket that you guys work on a lot, but you probably don't work on all the skills. What you are doing currently to increase your ability in all 5 tools of the sport. Okay, so what are you doing in all 5 tools? Or are you only doing 1 or 2? And, everybody works on hitting and fielding, and they let the rest of that go. So hopefully you're working on all 5. If you're not working on each one of these skills, then that skill is deteriorating or going down. It's getting worse. So remember, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Look at each skill and prioritize what you need to work on. Then list a goal for each skill based on the priority to you, complete with a timeline. So if you look up there and you go, you know what, my defense is there. Fielding is I'm a 998 guy. I barely make an error. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to practice. You do, or you won't keep that skill. But look down at speed. Maybe you've done nothing for speed. Maybe your game is not speed. Maybe you're a super power hitter and you've got super power and they'll give up speed to have you on the team. So that's not a priority. But you have to look at the list, find out what fits you. We're all snowflakes. We're all different. I'm a very small guy. I'm certainly not a power hitter. So my hitting for contact was very good. My speed was good. 4, I didn't do enough work on 4 that I should have done. And I'm sure I could have got a lot more power, but in my day, that wasn't looked at as a priority. Your second bucket is strength and conditioning, speed and agility. Okay, so you're only as good as you are strong. Let me start that over again. You're only as strong as you are flexible, and only as flexible as you are strong. To play our game, you must be agile as well as hostile. So we want you to be very fast, very mobile, and we want you to be very strong in the same point. Look at a baseball player, we're probably the best looking athlete out there. If you look at the basketball guys, not normal. You look at the football guys, not too normal. You can actually watch a baseball team walk off the bus and they don't look way out of proportion. They've got all sizes on there. So you can be hostile, but you got to be agile. You can't be overbuilt. It takes 6 weeks of weight training to reach adaptation or gain strength. If you take more than 2 weeks off, you will start to rapidly lose the strength that you have just gained. It's not fair, but neither is life or the game. One of the biggest thing in weight training is consistency. If you go every time you're supposed to go and lift every time you're supposed to lift, that's going to beat everything. Most people go and try to overdo it and then quit. But consistency is going to make you win. You must do stretching and recovery along with gaining strength. Stretching without flexibility, or strength without flexibility does not produce players. If you're overstrong, if you're a weightlifter, you're not going to be a baseball player. You've seen those guys that can't move. They pick things up, they put them down, and they just can't rotate. So they're not going to make players. No one should go on a baseball field without being in the best physical shape they can be. Strength and agility plus talent equals a player. When you watch those guys out there playing, the Christian Walkers of the world and the other major league players that are out there, it looks easy. It's not. It's extremely hard, and they've worked extremely hard to get there. They're just great athletes that have worked extremely hard on their talent. Third bucket, mental and emotional management. Here's where most players fail. It is the most overlooked and underrated skill in our sport. Today, every major league player has a mental and emotional coach or 2. Colleges all employ mental emotional coaches. Back in the day, not too long ago, if you went to see a mental coach, that was a bad thing. The organization looked at you as somebody that was weak. That's gone. Today, everybody, including the manager, has a mental coach, and major league managers sure have the pressure to need a mental coach. So everybody today is getting help with their mental game. It's no different than any other skill. You practice it, you get better at it, you build it, and in baseball, you absolutely have to have it. We play a game of failure. Those that learn how to fail and go forward succeed. Those that cannot handle failure are sure to fail. Makes sense. Our game guarantees failure. If you can't handle it, you're in the wrong game. Today, due to COVID-19, we are under mental emotional stress every day. Parents are short-tempered. You've been around your kids more than you have in years, for the most part. Kids are not themselves. They've been around their parents a lot more than they have in years. And everyone we interact with is not in their normal state of mind. These are not normal times. There's fear out there everywhere, and everybody's aware of what's going on. Just look around you and see all the masks, and you know that we're not in a normal place. Do we need mental emotional management? Yes, every day, more than ever. Are you working on this super important skill? Probably not. And you're losing a lot of that because your games are not going on. That's when you're honing that pressure and learning how to deal with it. There are a lot of ways available to you. Okay, we've accounted for all of your needs. Without a doubt, there are things that we brought up that you are not working on. I would almost bet on that across the board. You either didn't think they were important or just had overlooked them. That's why we need an audit to understand your wealth or lack thereof, your wealth being your talent in the game. That is money in our game. When we can play and produce, that equals money in all different ways. It gives you play time. That's the common denominator in high school ball. It gives me play time because I'm good. Later, it may give me a scholarship, very hard to get. Softball, a little easier than baseball. And of course, in the major leagues, those that produce make money. If anyone has been covering all of these bases, let me know. You are a very special and unique person. And I have no doubt that you will be great at something in life. It may not be the sport, but you have the right work ethic to work the way through things, and you are going to succeed in life. Baseball is life, and what it mimics each other. If you learn to work and you learn to persevere, you're going to be okay. Most people fail to plan, do not audit their talents or needs. Most are just happy to be. If you are happy where you're at, then you're in a good place. So I don't care what level you're at. If you're really satisfied being there, you don't have to alter your plan at all. But if you want to move up and you want to be in a better place, or you aspire to go to college or play in the majors, or be a softball Olympic player, which I believe is back, that takes a lot of work. But if you're happy, God bless you, stay right there, you're good. If you need to get better and have grit, it certainly can be done, even in these unprecedented times. Okay, so what do I do now? Well, over the past 6 weeks, I've taken advantage of every webinar and online coaching event that I could. This is me. I have been listening to the best coaches in the country, talking to the best academies and industry leaders in training. And we all agree on the most important aspect of your training. So I'll go over those now. But we think that the time, and everybody out there that I've talked to thinks about this loss of time on task is monumental in your development. And we don't want you to lose that. First, you must get in a training regimen and try to replace the hours of skill acquisition you are now missing. It's a critical decision. Have a plan and work it. So we looked at the deficit side, we looked at the plus side. I don't know what you yourself are doing, you're all different, but you have to audit that and go, you know what, I'm way down from where I would have been, and I've got to make a plan to make that better. And if you're a person that's sitting there and you go, you know what, I'm right where I want to be, hey, you're on easy street. Keep going and doing what you got. But if you don't work, you're going to get worse. And if you do work, you're going to get better. Okay, second, we are not all in the same boat. And I hear this all the time. People go like, yeah, but everybody's in the same boat. So they're not working and I'm not working. And yet when we come back, we're all going to be rusty and bad. But we're all in the same boat. I couldn't disagree more. Okay, where you're at and what you're doing is a choice. Choose a better boat. Okay, so if I'm, we've all been on the softball, baseball cruiser, and we ran into the iceberg COVID-19, and our boat is sinking, and we have choices. We can run over and get in boats. Well, you better be careful what boat you're getting in. You know, there's one boat over there with the good-looking ladies getting in it, the millionaires and the band, and that could be a party boat, but that's not what I'm looking for. If it was me, I'm going to get in a lifeboat full of Navy SEALs, guys that are trained in survival, best swimmers in the world, navigators. That's my boat. So you don't have to get in any boat, but make sure the boat you're in is the one you want to be in. Third, you must go into competitive, challenging training to replicate all of the competitive hours you are losing. Just like the game, it has to be hard. So a good percentage of your training now has to be game-like. You have to compete. You have to go out there and compete against it. It's uncomfortable. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to go through it. You're going to have the same emotions you have in a game. If you're doing great, you've never been happier. If you're not, you have to fight that, and that's going to get into your mental emotional side. But that you have to get back into that competitive challenge to really get what you need and what you're missing. You can do this. It's hard, but it can be done. Okay, you don't need a $10 million gym for strength and conditioning. You don't need your team, your coaches, or your organization practice to get this done. Now, would it be better? Absolutely. Would I prefer to work out in a $10 million gym at a major league spring training facility? You bet I would. Those guys have chefs, man. You can put in your order for lunch and they'll make you anything you want. Would it be better and easier to work out with my teammates? Absolutely. Always more fun to work in the group. All except for that one guy in the gym that never lifts and never stops talking. We can all do without him. And every team's got one. John used to work out with one of our minor league guys, and they'd go to the gym, and he was very popular, and he was a social guy, but he lost 10 to 20% of his time because he was that social guy that talked to everybody. He not only lost 10 to 20% of his time, but he took up 10 to 20% of every other lifter in that gym. So we could do without him in a gym. Great guy to go out and sit at a table and have beverages with, but you don't want him in a gym. But is there a way to get this done without these amenities? Absolutely. Reimagine your reality. This is something we've all got to do after COVID. Okay, you got to get out of the box. Baseball traditionally has been done exactly the same way for 125 years. It's changing radically now. That's really going out the door. We're not doing that anymore. And one of my mental emotional coaches, he doesn't like it when you do anything in the box. Take, for example, infield practice. We always hit the first ball to third base. Why? Tradition. No other reason. He hates that. He wants everybody on the infield to be ready, to not know if the ball is coming and react. So when we're doing infield, I no longer hit the third and then the short and then the second and then the first. I just hit the ball to someone and try to keep it even. But that way we've got everybody into practice. So you got to get out of the traditional boxes and do it a different way. Make a plan and get after it. Don't tell me you don't have time, because as soon as organized practices and games start, you'll make time. Okay, so when we have a practice, and normally we would be playing and practicing every night of the week, and all of you would be there. So if you don't have time, it's just because you didn't make the time to do it. So stop with the excuses and make the time right now. Get it done. There may not be any games this year. Who knows? And we don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any games. Major leagues are fighting over money. Not good. I think the players are going to have to take some concessions to make it work. They're going to have to get out of the box a little bit. I do know they want to play. But once we can go to green in the state of Pennsylvania and can get back into the academies, we can give you all the competitive hard work you need to replicate that what you're losing. Normally, you go to games and they are hard, very hard. Then you train in an easier environment. Now you'll have to go to train in a hard environment and replace that game-like competition. It's what we should have been doing all the time. Maybe it's time to reimagine your training. So we're going to have to make it harder on you and get you in. And we have everything we need to do that. I've got a Tudor pitching machine that can throw any pitch at any velocity. And we've got hit tracks that'll give us the results of whatever you do at your at bat. So if we wanted to, we could crank the machine up to 100 miles an hour, give you a 100-mile-an-hour fastball with sink, and see what you could do with it. And of course, hit tracks would tell you the outcome of that at bat. And I don't know anybody that needs that, but what you do need is those game curveballs. You can't hit curveballs if you don't practice them. The tutor will throw you curves and put you in that situation. The tutor will mix it up and can give you every pitch. The tutor can pick its own pitches, so we can actually absolutely get you in a game-like environment. And we also have things coming like you can compete on hit tracks nationwide if you wanted to. Okay, we're all in this together. We all need each other, and we're all in a bad place. There's no doubt about it. We've never been in this situation. I've been in the game over 40 years. I've never had anything like this. So we're all out there to help. And I'm telling you, the baseball, softball world is there to help you right now, like never before. Like I said earlier, I'm getting free webinars, free coaching clinics. We're putting this out free. Everybody wants to help, and that's a good thing. So let's help each other and do whatever we can to share knowledge and know-how. If you have any questions on how to work on these buckets and turn your losses into gains, just let me know. You can email me at diamonddreamsba@gmail.com. Okay, I have drill strategies and suggestions for any and all things you come up with. And if I don't have an answer for you, I can reach out to the baseball/softball world and find one. Like I said before, right now, everybody's giving. We've got D1 coaches sitting at home for the first time in 30 years. This is the first time in 30 years they're sitting home with their families. And these guys are more than willing to help you right now. So the industry, the world is open until everybody gets back to work again and we all start overrunning. But right now we can get a hold of people and get answers. So it's a great time to learn. It's a great time to train. No one can help you if we don't know what you need. You're all snowflakes. You're all in a different place. Some people are looking at this and going like, there's no reason. There's nothing out there to play for. Well, there's next year, there's next month. We don't know what's coming. I guarantee you the game will be back. And if I wanted to play at high school, or I wanted to play at travel, and I wanted to go up and be better, this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take advantage of this and make sure that I don't go a year back. And I don't want to be in the same boat with the people that are going backwards. I want to be in that boat with those Navy SEALs going forward. Okay, so I want to thank you for the time and attention. I shot for around 45 minutes. I'll see when I'm done, how I made out, but we shot for 45 minutes. We know today that's a long time to sit and go over this stuff. Although I'm telling you, in our profession, we'll sit there for 8 hours and go over this. We do it all the time. We love it, and we don't ever want to go home. But today, everybody's short, and I understand. So if you finished the entire presentation and you got here, you're an above average person in our sport. It probably says a lot about you mentally and emotionally also. Congratulations. Tension and stress make us all a little short. The more tense you are, the more you can't put up with time. The more relaxed you are, the more you can sit and accept and learn. If we get enough questions from you guys, we're thinking about putting on a webinar with a panel of local coaches just to answer your questions. We'll see what we get. We don't know if we're going to get a ton of questions or 1,000 questions or 100 questions or 10. But we'll take a look at it, and we're thinking about putting on a webinar if we need to. It could be John and myself, 2 other coaches. Could be guys from the staff. We don't know. We could ask Christian Walker if he's not doing too much to get in there and do something. We don't know what his time schedule is. I can tell you this: he's working, and he's ready to play, and hopes they'll play. I hope we've helped you with the audit and put you at ease on how to go forward in your training. I want you to stay safe out there, no matter what you do. I don't want you to take COVID for granted. I don't want you to think it's a joke. This thing is very serious, and it's hurt a lot of people. It can be done safely, and I beg you, if you go out on the field and you're involved with a team, do it as safe as you possibly can. If you don't do it safely, they're going to shut us down. So do everything in your power, and if you have to err on the side of safety. Okay, but be safe out there. Let us know what's going. Send those questions in if you have anything. Thank you for watching this presentation. We're going to have more for you coming out, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.